Hello friends, it's Jayma Malme here, and today I'm going to scrapbook 9 photos on a single page layout. Yes, a single page layout. It's going to be interactive. I think it's going to be really cool. So stay tuned. I'm going to explain what I'm doing, and I'm going to use this very vintagey, floral, Parisian kind of look paper. This is called Cosette, with snowboarding and ski photos. So I'm really hoping this turns out. I think it will, and I'm going by the colors. So let me talk to you about these photos. They're super special. This is my father-in-law, my husband's dad. That's my husband. And he is a ski junkie through and through. He has been skiing for over 50 years, back when you just strapped these wooden skis onto your boots, and he's got some crazy stories. So he wanted to come out here to ski with his grandkids, my kids, for the very first time. My husband and I used to ski with him a lot back when we lived in California. He lives in California, but he has not skied with my grandkids, and they've been skiing now for a couple of seasons. And so he wanted to experience that. And so we just did that this past spring, a couple of weeks ago. And I was drawn to the pink in my daughter's jacket and the green in his jacket. Now this is actually the same jacket, it just looks really different because this photo got really washed out with the lighting and stuff. And can you believe that these were all the same day? We had some blue skies and sunshine in the morning, and then by the end of the day, it was almost whiteout conditions. So we went up for the weekend, spent a couple of days at a couple of different resorts. So I don't want to do two-page layouts. I want to keep this as one single page layout. So I'm going to do one page at Beaver Creek Resort in this video, and then in my next video I'll do the second companion page at Breckenridge Resort. And so they're going to be together, but we're going to have some lift up flaps to add some interaction, and it's almost like adding another 12 by 12 page because we're going to add a 6 by 12 flip flap. So you've got the 6 by 12 front and back. I'm going to show you that in just a moment. I wanted to give you a look at this paper collection, and the reason I thought this would work is, again, the colors. And I was especially looking at this photo, and so I thought that if I just pulled out the papers that I wanted, so first I just pulled out these two, and this sort of medallion look, but it also sort of looked foresty to me a little bit. You can see all those little vines and stuff. And so I thought it would work with the trees and the outdoors. And then of course this pink with my daughter's jacket. But look at this stripe. I thought that these kind of, if you really look at it and really think about it, it looks like ski tracks. So I'm kind of excited about this. And I even think that I might bring in a little bit of this paper. Now this is gorgeous paper. You definitely would not think ski trip with this paper, but I think by just using it in little doses to bring in all of these fun colors, and we do have leaves, flowers, outdoor stuff, the butterflies. This was springtime on this trip, and I think if you just have it peeking out a little bit somewhere, I think it's going to work, and it's going to tie in all of the beautiful colors from this collection. So we'll see if we can work with that. I might just work with this. I'm not going to use these patterns because these are they're not really going to work with my photos. But then check this out. This is the mix-in paper collection, and there's a mix-in collection for every catalog that Close to My Heart comes out with. And basically it's a bunch of patterns that will go with all of the other paper collections in the catalog. So I've actually got 2 mix-in collections here. I've already turned them upside down so you can see all the patterns, and I pulled out these ones here, and I'll just set these ones aside because I think these could work with my photos. So I don't know how much, obviously I'm not going to use all of these patterns, but I'm just pulling out what I think might work. And I also want to note this, look at how pretty that would look with this collection if you weren't doing a ski trip. Okay, so I'm going to set those aside. We've got these more neutral patterns. This is more rustic-y outdoors. Again, this could be our ski tracks, or in mine and my husband's case, snowboard tracks, but my kids and my father-in-law ski. And just a neutral and a neutral here. I thought this almost looked like snow. It's kind of like a crackly, almost concrete. I don't know. It's really just a cool neutral pattern. So I've got these pulled out, and this is what I have to work with. There's also this sticker sheet, which I might, you know, be able to pull some of these sprigs, but what I've also pulled out are these stamps and dies. So I also have a couple Cricut cuts, a little snowboard, and some skis. These I cut out for my last snowboard ski trip layout and didn't end up using them. They were just a little bit too much with the glitter, so they might still be too much, but I thought, you know what, I'll pull them out, and if I need to recut them in a different color, I can. I've got the Snow Much Fun stamp and die set. I used this on a previous ski trip layout, and I was able to stamp and color all of these fun little stamps. So these stamps are the black, and what you see shaded in blue has a die cut that coordinates to cut it out. So I could color them to match what we're wearing exactly. I've also got my Winter Flurries and my Winter Snowflakes dies. I believe the Snowflakes one, which is this one on top, is still available. I love to have snowflake sets, and I purchase them whenever there's new ones out because I can never have too many snowflakes with all the snow pictures we take. And then I've got this double stripe card front die from Concord and 9th. And again, not sure if I'll use it, but it reminded me of those ski tracks again. And so this makes just little piercings. And I thought that might be fun to have going across my layout or behind a photo or something, I don't know. And then there's some other things that go with this collection, the Cosette die cuts, which are beautiful, but I'm not going to be using them on this layout. You can see all of the different shapes here, and they have this beautiful newsprint. So if you do have photos like heritage photos or vintage photos, any photos that this might work, these are just gorgeous and they just pop right out. And then the last thing I have are these pocket cards. They're called Picture My Life cards. There's 3x4 and 4x6 in here. And this is one of my favorite ones. But I just pulled out some that I thought might work. The best things in life aren't things. Maybe that could work somewhere. I could even like die cut it out possibly, or just use it like this. Because of course this was an experience we'll never forget. And so that would work. I pulled out a journal card. There's several journal cards in the pack. I'm thinking I'm going to type my journal, but I pulled this out just in case. It's different on each side. Here are those ski tracks again. So this is neutral with the black and white. That could be fun. Let me tell you a story. I don't think I'm going to use this, but I could. I like the green in it, and so I pulled it out just in case. Life is made up of moments. This little icon won't work, but I thought if I cut it like this, I could maybe cut it out and use it as a title or subtitle in some way. That could work. And then this one is fun, joy, and then the description of, or the definition of joy. It's different on each side. I don't think the blue will work, and if this is kind of a lot of Mulberry, but just in case, again, just wanted to have these things on hand. So let's go ahead and dive in. Okay, so I've got some of my photos here on this single page, and what we're going to do is bring in this 6x12 flip flap, and what that does is it attaches to your page like this, and then it will flip out like this. Now you can attach it anywhere. You can attach it at the bottom and it will flip down. You can have it on this side or on this side, but this is going to be the left side of my 2-page spread, and then in an upcoming video I'll do the right side. So what I'm thinking is I'm going to have this open out like this, and then on the other page I'll have it open out like this. Now you may have seen me use regular flip flaps before. I often use the 4x6 or the 3x4, and I might be pulling these in as well. I think I might be using this for my journaling. But you can do this over just a photo and add an extra 2 4x6 photos or two extra 3x4 photos, and it comes in all different sizes too. So this is actually the first time I'm using this 6x12 size, so I think it's going to be really fun. And actually Chelsea did a class all on doing 6x12 and 8x12 flip flaps in one of our membership videos, and she has a cutting diagram and a full length tutorial on how she did hers, but she had hers flip out like this, 2, and then again 2 going like this, and it was super involved. Again, there's a cutting guide for it, so if you're in our membership, be sure to check that out. I think it was from October of 22, and if you're not in our membership, I'll have the link below for our waiting list. Our registration's not open all year round. All right, so let's get into this. What I did was I cut 2 6x12 pieces of paper. So really, essentially, even though we're creating a 1-page layout, it's the real estate of a 2-page layout. Okay, so I've got 1 page cut like this, and that's going to be on the front of my flip flap. And so if you think of it like this is what you're going to see when your flip flap is closed. So I want these photos to line up, and ideally I would want this photo to fully show or to be fully hidden. So with the flip flap closed, it would just be half of it showing, but I think I'm just gonna be okay with that. I'm not gonna stress about it too much because I really like how these fit going along the bottom here and the way my photos are oriented. Now this one is gonna go over here, so that's gonna be the back side of the flip flap. So when you open it up, you're gonna have this as the front of your layout, and then you're gonna open it up and have this inside, and I'm gonna make this all cohesive with the papers going all the way across. So for all intents and purposes, I'm just going to lay these out like it's a 2-page layout, and I think I'll have them oriented like this, and I'll just have to remember this is gonna be like this, and this is what you see when you open it. It really doesn't matter which one goes where, as long as it works for you. So I think I'm gonna have a pink strip going along the bottom, big enough to fit these 3x3 photos. And then this wood grain going across the top, big enough to have those 4x6 photos fully on it. And then I'm thinking I'll bring in some strips. So I'm gonna try this strip with the birds and leaves and flowers and everything. And you know what? I decided I didn't want to use it because it's got an off-white background. And I've got bright white in my photos and in some of the other papers I want to use, or at least it looks a little more bright white. So I did decide not to go with that. And I really like this plaid pattern because it sort of matches my son's jacket right there. And then it goes with the gray that I cut my title out with. I wanted a little more separation between that checkered pattern because it's got a white background. I wanted a little bit of dark between there for contrast. So I'm going to add a strip of that green patterned paper, the medallion paper, on the top and bottom. And then to bring in a little more of that pine color, I'm going to try matting my photos in it. And I do like that. Typically, you may know I mat my photos in white, but these photos have a lot of white in the background because of the snow, so I didn't feel that I needed that. All right, this is one of the 4x6 pocket cards, the one that looked like ski tracks. And what I decided to do was cut it in half. So now I have 2 3x4s. And I thought it would be cool to put my journaling on there. I'm gonna try to write small enough. I'll type out my journaling ahead of time so I can write it and not mess up. But I'm thinking between that 1 and 1/3 pieces, I think I'll be able to fit my story here. But if not, I can add the rest of the story on the right-hand side of the page. So I wanted to add a little bit of inking around the edges of my photos. So I'm just taking my foam blending tool and going around with the pine ink. It just adds an extra little bit of dimension that I like. You can definitely skip this step. At this point, I decided I didn't really like the straight edges of the strips I have on the top and bottom. So I'm going to just give them a little bit of a tear. Now I want them to not show the white core. So I'm pulling the bigger end, which is going to be down, toward me, and that way the white core is going to show on that left strip, which is trash. So if you are conscientious of how you're tearing your paper, whether you can think about whether you want the white core or not. So this way I do not have the white core. I like the organic look that has, especially being outdoors. I'm just going to kind of ruffle it up a little bit more with my fingers. If you have nails, this works great. You could also use scissors or a distressing tool to do this if you don't want to rip it. It also works really well if you get the edge wet. It'll curl even more. I've done that in some videos before. And then I'm just going to take that same ink blending tool and ink the edges of the ruffled edge. And so I'm really liking how that looks. I went ahead and did that to the other strips on this page, and then I didn't cut this pink strip big enough to be able to rip it because I want those 3x3 photos plus mats to fit on it all the way. So I'm using my edge distresser here instead, and that way it doesn't take away as much of the paper, if that makes sense. Now to glue this down, I kept my glue away from the very top because I want to tuck all of those ripped pieces underneath the paper. So for these strips, I'm going to layer them up on top of each other so that it's easier to get them both underneath the pink paper, or mulberry is the technical color. And then I'll just glue them both down together, and I have plenty of room to slide it under, make sure that I've got enough of the pattern showing, and I'm really liking how that looks. Now onto the embellishing, my favorite part. I cut out a whole bunch of snowflakes, and then I stamped and colored and cut out a whole bunch of those stamps. To match the mulberry, I used the Antique Pink Blend Spectrum Noir Tri-Blend marker, and then the light color of the pale pink over it. And then to match the pine, sort of, I used the Alpine Green Blend, the medium and dark, and then blended over that with the dark of the dull green blend, and that made pretty good matches. And then the snowflakes I cut out of silver glitter paper, mulberry cardstock, and then that mix-in paper, the one that I said kind of looked like snow. Look at how perfect it is for these snowflakes. I love it. So we're just going to scatter these around, and I ended up using more snowflakes and fewer stamped images than I thought. I used just a few of the stamped images just for a little bit of accenting. And look at how perfect these little skis are. I was afraid they'd be too blingy, but when they're sort of hidden behind the title here, it works out perfect. By the way, that title I cut out ahead of time with my Cricut. I designed it just with fonts in Cricut Design Space. The fonts are free from dafont.com. That more scripty one is called Milkshake, and With was called Mini Garden. So again, they're both free from dafont.com. I will link to them in the description below so you can easily find them. I will also link to all of the other supplies that I'm using down below in case you also need them. And don't forget that the VIP program is super, super awesome to save 15% on all of your purchases. So when you sign up, you get 15% back on every purchase through my Close to My Heart website. And I have all that info linked down below. Now I colored this with a clear shimmer brush, and it just adds just a hint of sparkle. I absolutely love it. And I'm gonna go ahead and color all of the pieces that have sort of a either white or furry look to them, like the earmuffs and the top of the boots. And it's really, really hard to catch that shine in the video and in photos, but just believe me, it is super, super awesome. Those shimmer brushes are some of my favorite tools in my craft room. I was futzing with where those goggles were going to go for a while, and then look at how perfectly it fits in that little nook and cranny of the title. It's just so perfect. So I'm going to fuss around with a bunch of these other little snowflakes and the stamped images. I was trying to figure out, I wanted to have a little image here, but I didn't want to cover up the little tree up in the corner of this photo. So eventually I'm going to move that down to the bottom left. I'm still trying to keep these visual triangles of my layout in mind, whether things are open or closed. I do want my little embellishment clusters to be spread out evenly. You saw me cut that little snowflake in half. That is a great way to conserve your snowflakes, and especially if only half of it's going to be showing. Now's a good time to remind you to hit that thumbs up if you're enjoying this video so YouTube knows that you're enjoying it. And if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to my channel so you don't miss any of my scrapbooking videos every week. Now I'm embellishing that inside flap, and I'm placing that flip flap there so that I can work around it, because anything that is going to be under it is going to be hidden by the flip flap, or it'll be seen when it's lifted up, but you just want to kind of make sure that the flip flap isn't going to interfere with it. I thought this was a good time to bring in some of those leaves from the sticker sheet. I really like, again, that organic feel that they bring in, because we are surrounded by a lot of greenery and the forest, and I really like the way that that plays into the whole snowflake look. So I definitely want one here. I love it here in this cluster with the skis and the goggles. and there are only a few of them on the sticker sheet, so I just want to make sure that they're spread around the page evenly. So I've got one here on that top flap, and then here's another one, and I'm thinking that's going to go in this cluster here, and that's kind of balanced across the page. And at this point, I'm not sure if I'm going to use a third one, so I'm going to just keep adding a few snowflakes. I think I need another one up here. Again, cut it in half and just going to kind of tuck it under there. But I'm not quite sure about that placement. Let me try it over here. I think that looks better with the overall look of the layout and making sure that everything is balanced, because I have those boots right below it. So I wanted it to kind of go, you know, from one corner to the other, from those boots up to the top corner. Now I decided that the mulberry snowflakes needed just a little bit of something extra. So I grabbed the splatter stamp from my background element stamp set. I'm just using my fingers because I'm just doing such a loose, you know, kind of quick, messy stamping on it. I thought it looked kind of like snow, and so I'm just doing tone on tone mulberry ink on top of mulberry cardstock, and it just gives a very subtle little texture to those mulberry cardstock snowflakes. Again, totally optional. It's just one of those added details that I like to do. Here is that third little leaf cluster, and I decided to put that on the inside of the flap there with another snowflake. And here's a look at how everything turned out. Hopefully you can catch that tone on the mulberry, but I just love these little tiny clusters, mostly snowflakes, kind of adds to that elegant look of the paper. We're going to pull this all together, and I'm going to show you how to add the flip flap and put everything in the flip flap and what it looks like when it flips up open. So stay tuned for that. I just love this title. I love, love, love how that turned out. So let's go ahead and do the flip flap. So I'm pulling off that release paper, and there's a little flap that folds back. Now I should have waited to pull that release paper off before I kind of burnished this fold, but that's okay, it'll still work. I just want to make sure it's folded nice and tightly, and I'm going to line it up with the edge of my page protector, make sure it's nice and straight, and just stick it down. So that page is already in the 12 by 12 page protector, and this big flip flap is just going right on top of it, just like the regular flip flaps are. And I'm going to put these two little 6 by 12 pages front to back, and then we will very carefully slide that into the page, the little flip flap page. Make sure that we're not catching on any of those little embellishments, don't want to ruin those. And it slides in quite easily. And then we can just open and close it. But now let's add that 3 by 4 flip flap too. Same idea, I took the release paper off, folded it back, and then I will just stick it right on top of this page protector, or this large flip flap, which is sort of acting as a page protector. So what do you think? Did the cassette collection work for these photos? I hope this video helps you think about your paper in new ways and gives you the confidence to use some interactive flip flaps. I love how the stamps help me to create a custom look. I love stickers, but the fact that you can make stamps any color you want is just so cool. If you'd like to see still shots, I have those over on Instagram and Facebook. The links are below, along with all the supplies I used. And if you'd like to see more flip flap ideas, check out this video on screen now. Thanks for watching and have a great day.